going on, YouTube, and welcome to the very first Warzone Elite video. In this video, we're going to be going over all of the settings that you guys are going to need to dominate inside of Warzone. I don't want to talk too much, but I just want to give you guys a brief overview of what Warzone Elite is. So Warzone Elite is a new series I'm bringing to the channel. It is very, very similar to Iceman Isaac's Academy series. However, this series is aimed at everybody getting better together. I don't want you guys to be fooled by the name Warzone Elite. This series is aimed at everybody, people of all skill levels. If you have a 0.5 or if you have a 4+ KD, and everybody in between. The whole point of this series is that we get better together, and the we in that statement stands for Warzone Elite. So the Warzone Elites get better together. That is the whole point of this. This series is going to be made up of a lot of different guides, tip videos. This settings video here, I will be having a video coming out very soon, which is going to help you guys spot enemies a lot easier because the graphics in this game are a little bit unforgiving in that way. Anyway, if you guys are interested in that at all, make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you gain anything from this video, if you guys find any value in the content, make sure to consider subscribing to the channel. I'd very much appreciate it. So that way you don't miss any future videos, and then you'll be able to stay up to date with everything Warzone Elite. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the settings. The very first thing in the settings that I want to go over is for my controller players. I myself play on controller. I know a lot of people are probably curious. I play on a SCUF Impact. I do have paddles that I use. But going into the controls, the BR button layout, I'm using tactical. This switches your crouch and prone with the melee. So basically you melee with circle. Meleeing in this game did get nerfed, so really not important to be able to melee. So I prefer to be able to slide cancel using my right stick. Going down, this setting is going to help you guys out immensely with the planes, specifically on controller, and that is in the invert vertical look. You can go ahead, usually it's disabled, but they snuck this setting in there to where you can set it to air vehicles only. So if you guys are running around, it's not going to mess with anything except for when you're in the planes. So the air vehicles only, the camera movements on the vertical axis will be inverted. This only applies in airborne vehicles. It just makes it feel a little bit more natural. Moving over here to the dead zone, I'm using on my left stick, I use 0.01, and then on the right stick, I use 0.05. I know people are going to be a little bit confused. Why are they not the same? Well, the right stick is used for aiming and controlling your aim. So for that, I'd rather have a little bit higher of a threshold. So that 0.05. For my movement, I don't want anything hindering me or slowing me down. So I use 0.01. This is similar to what a lot of CDL pros use. I would like to mention, if you guys are having stick drift, go ahead and start bumping this up. Turn this up by 0.01 and then come out of the menu and then see if your controller stick is drifting. If it is, go ahead and just keep bumping it up until it stops. This will fix your stick drift. For the left and the right stick max input dead zone, I have this set to 0.99. This is the default. You can go ahead and crank it up to 1. Honestly, there really is no difference between 1 and 0.99. So moving down to my sensitivity, I'm rocking 7.8. This is just what feels natural to me. A lot of other players, you know, use 6.9. For me, I'd rather be able to turn a little bit faster left to right, especially where there are a lot of bushes and shrubs. And honestly, I've been getting shot in the back a lot and getting shot from a lot of different angles since we don't know where we're looking. 7.7, I can turn just a little bit faster. So my ADS sensitivity multiplier is 0.8. Coming down here to custom sensitivity per zoom. I use this, I turn this on. This is a fantastic feature because this will allow you to fine tune your sensitivity to whatever optic you're using. So with that being said, the ADS sensitivity multiplier low zoom, I put it at 0.8. Basically up until the 3x, it is 0.8 because in the old Warzone settings, the low zoom sensitivity multiplier is applied up to a 3x. After that, you go into the high zoom multiplier, which was also on the previous Warzone. So in the previous Warzone, I used 0.86 for my high zoom multiplier. So I just have all of these values at 0.86. I'm going to go through once Plunder comes out and I'm going to fine tune all of these because each sniper does have a slightly different zoom level. So this is something I've been looking forward to for a very long time, and I'm glad they brought it to Warzone. I just haven't had time to exactly fine tune it yet, but for now I'm leaving it as 0.86. Coming down here, my aim response curve, I'm using dynamic. Again, with that 0.8 sensitivity multiplier, it does make dynamic just a little bit better because it's a little bit more controllable. For controller vibration, I have this disabled. I don't actually have any rumble packs inside of my controller. Aim assist, I do use standard. Scale aim assist with FOV, I leave this enabled. So getting into scale aim assist with FOV, I have this enabled. I have seen other YouTubers talk about this and they are not talking about it correctly. So basically these are your crosshairs. This is going to be disabled. So when scale aim assist is disabled, the region doesn't scale according to the field of view. So basically you're left with this giant box. So when this white box overlays with the red hitbox of the enemy, that is when your ADS slowdown occurs. That's when your aim assist starts to stick. So since this area is larger, you're going to start sticking to enemies further out. And in theory, you think it would be helpful to get that aim slowdown sooner. However, you want to be as fine-tuned as possible. So with the scale aim assist over here, you can see the white box is a lot smaller and the distance between these crosshairs are a lot smaller as well. So when you are closer to the enemy, your aim assist is going to kick in, which is what you want, because if it is larger, you're going to end up oversteering in a lot of instances where you're going to be oversteering or over aiming where you shouldn't be. In a lot of instances, when you leave this enabled, you end up over aiming, essentially aiming a little bit too far to the left, a little bit too far to the right, because your aim assist is throwing you off a little bit early. So for me, I leave scale aim assist with FOV enabled. For moving down here very quickly, because these are pretty much standard ADS and melee, enabled, hold. Coming down here, we have use/reload behavior. Absolutely recommend using contextual tap. Depleted ammo switch enabled. There's no reason to have this disabled. And then armor plates, I always use apply 1. This is because if I am in gunfights or in tight spots, I prefer to just put one plate in at a time. Obviously, if you hold triangle, it will continue to put plates on, or if you press it multiple times, it will continue to put plates on. But for me, if I'm taking out an enemy and then I'm one shot, but he has 2 other teammates nearby, I'd prefer to have the ability to put one plate in, stop, and then continue fighting, rather than getting stuck in a weird animation where you have to try to YY out of it. And then whenever that happens, I never know what gun I'm taking out. So I leave applied plate behavior to 1. Slide behavior, you're absolutely going to want to have this on tap. Auto move forward disabled. Tactical sprint, I have this on double tap. This setting does not matter because I have automatic tactical sprint. This is going to be an absolute key in order to slide cancel. Vehicle camera recenter disabled. Parachute auto deploy disabled. Coming over here to my graphic settings, my buddy Foves actually hooked me up with some of these settings. So everybody's PCs are different, so I would like to recommend taking this as a jumping off point. However, this is kind of a mashup of what he gave me and then what I feel gave my PC the best performance as well. So moving in, render resolution, obviously at 100. I'm playing at 1440p. Dynamic resolution disabled. This does not matter because this is disabled. Aspect ratio automatic. VSync disabled. Custom frame limit, it's just about what I have. I always put my custom frame limit for my gameplay around 10 to 20 frames above what my monitor refresh rate is. Will I ever get this many frames? Absolutely not. From a menu frame rate, I always leave this at 60 frames. There's no reason to have my PC working overtime trying to put out 200 frames in the menu. Absolutely useless. For brightness, I did kick this up from 50 because I was having a lot of trouble spotting enemies. I am going to be having a video coming out soon with specific settings that you guys can change to help you spot enemies. For right now though, this is the only thing that I have changed, and that is going to be, I took it from 50 to 64. Display gamma 2.2, NVIDIA highlights disabled, NVIDIA reflex low latency. If you guys are on PC, you have this. Make sure this is set to enabled plus boost. It basically will decrease the latency between your controller and your PC. So moving over here to quality, we have field of view, which is going to be at 120. ADS field of view, I have this on affected, obviously, for the less visual recoil. Camera movement, you're going to want to decrease this all the way down to 50%. Streaming quality low. Texture resolution high. Texture filter normal. Particle quality high. Bullet impacts and sprays enabled. I see a lot of people say you don't need this. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. For me, I use all information that is given to me in the game so I can make the best possible decision in game to put me in an advantageous position. So if I am getting shot at and I'm not sure, you know, if it came from the right, left, behind, forward, whatever, I usually look around for bullet impacts. Not all the time, but there are specific times where this has saved me. So I always leave this enabled. Tessellation, I have this disabled. Gore effects enabled. On-demand texture streaming disabled. Moving down here, filmic strength is set to 0, and this is only because my anti-aliasing is set to filmic SMAA T2X. So this essentially, with me using that anti-aliasing, this is what my picture looks like. But if I was using other anti-aliasing and I had my filmic strength set to 0, it would have a lot of visual noise. If you guys want to get a couple extra frames, you guys can actually set the anti-aliasing to SMAA 1X, and then you have to come up here and turn the filmic strength to 1, and it will turn it into this with the same performance. For me, if it's not broken, don't fix it. I prefer my game to look absolutely stunning, so I use filmic SMAA T2X. Depth of field disabled. World motion blur disabled. Weapon motion blur disabled. Shadow map resolution low. Cache spot shadows disabled. Particle lighting low. DirectX ray tracing, turn this off. I will say, if you have this on, your game will legitimately look like a movie. However, it will absolutely annihilate any kind of performance that you'd be getting. Definitely do not play with ray tracing on. play with a disabled, ambient occlusion disabled, screen space reflection disabled. Quickly going through my interface settings, for me, I have the bound set to 100/100. The mini map shape, you're going to want to go ahead and have this on square. Obviously, the circle mini map, you're losing a lot of that information that you're able to gain. If the mini map is square, you get around, I would say probably 20, maybe 25% more of the map on your screen with the square, which is going to give you guys a lot more information. So very highly recommend using the mini map as square. Mini map, I want that to rotate with me. So compass cardinal direction, I have this set to numbers because a lot of the times people will try to call out north, south, east, west, when in reality, most people don't have their bearings on the map. So that isn't very helpful. However, most people, if you call out a number, oh, they're at, 265 or they're at, 195, it will be easier for them to turn. So instead of having this say west or northeast or whatever, if you guys are directly on that, it's easier to have just the number, because typically if I'm trying to call out, the last thing I want to do is have to look to the number to the right or to the left, or turn my character slightly just to get numbers so I can give my teammates a specific call out. So for me, I prefer having this on numbers so I could just say, they're at 270. Kill feed duration, I have this on default. However, if you wanted to bump it up to long, it would not be necessarily the worst idea. Sometimes you guys are in a gunfight and you don't remember if you got a team wipe or not. Sometimes the noise doesn't register with you or whatever. If you have the kill feed on long, you can at least have a couple extra seconds to look down in the bottom left and see, okay, I got a team wipe. There's no more players that are going to be pushing me and I'm good to go. Text chat, I have this disabled. Coming down here, this is going to be the stuff in the top left. I have my frame. I want to see my FPS, your server latency. You absolutely want to see that. Packet loss, crucial information with packet loss. You're going to want that on. So moving down here to graphics processing unit time and then central processing unit time, basically GPU time and CPU time, you can go ahead and see these. Basically, whatever is the higher number is going to be what is bottlenecking your system. So when you're in game in the menu, it doesn't really matter. But when you're in game, if you're getting frame drops, frame skips, anything like that, you can look up here and see whichever one has the lower time is a-okay, perfect. Whichever one has the higher time, that is going to be what's bottlenecking your system. So show mute sound widget, I have that enabled. Show mute voice widget, I have that enabled. System clock disabled. Skipping introduction movie, absolutely have that on. I want to get into the game as soon as possible. Moving over to my audio settings, this is going to allow you guys to hear enemies a little bit easier. They didn't do a terrible job with footsteps, but they're definitely not great. They could definitely use some work. However, I found boost low gives me the best option of hearing that. Master volume, I have that at 100. Music volume, you want to turn this all the way off. While the music in the game is very cool and adds a cinematic effect, if we're in the end circle, the last thing you're going to want is some sort of cinematic music, A, causing you to panic slightly because it's definitely going to make it more intense, but B, it's going to stop you from hearing possible enemy footsteps, enemy fire, battle chatter in the game. It essentially just blocks out information that you guys are going to need in order to secure the W. So I have that turned to 0. Dialogue at 50. This is that announcer voice. I don't like it yelling in my ear, so I have it about 50. Effects at 100. Cinematic volume, I have it at 100. Again, this is just for the campaign mode, so not a big deal. I use classic hit marker sounds. You want to have mono audio turned off unless you guys have some sort of hearing impairment in either of your ears, then you're going to want to turn that on. War track is passenger. I have this disabled. This is just the music that's in the cars. Basically, those are the settings you're going to want to change for audio. Anyway, I hope that this video helped you guys out. Again, this is just my settings, so just use this as a jumping off point. Everybody's going to have their own settings. If I missed anything, please let me know in the comment section down below. I'd be happy to double back and in a future settings video update you guys based on your feedback. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to drop a like. If you found any value at all, please consider subscribing to the channel. Without further ado, I absolutely love you guys, and I'll catch you guys later.